We'll call to order a special call meeting February 22nd, 2010, Indian River County Board of County Commissioners. We will have Commissioner Wesley Davis lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from Commissioner Slurry. Everybody please rise.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come before you and to conduct business. May we use your guidance and your wisdom in the decisions we make. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Takes us to item 4A under My Matters. To consider modifying a resolution 2009-033, section 3, to include county commissioners as officers of the County Economic Development Agency. I'd like to take a couple minutes for a little background here. And I think this story is getting kind of blown out of proportion for what it is, but probably the last 3 months, Helene Castletine with the Chamber Economic Development Officer and myself have been meeting with a company that's interested in locating a manufacturing facility here in Indian River County. These were pretty standard meetings. We outlined what incentive packages the county offers. Helene covers the incentive packages that the state offers. There's also a local developer who met with us because he had a site that the manufacturing company was looking to utilize. These are pretty just standard meetings. We're just letting the business know that we were there to help, let them know what incentives we offer, and to do anything we can to try to help that company move to Indian River County. During one of the meetings, they brought in a partner who was going to be their technology side. We had a very good meeting with a technology partner and proceeded from there. About a week ago Friday, I got a call from the principal of the technology partner who indicated that they had a very large opportunity for a light manufacturing and software technology opportunity. They were initially considering going to another state, and apparently that opportunity was starting to fall through for them. When he called me, he said, we really liked, when we were in Vero visiting with you all, we liked the things you guys were doing, we liked the way you were helpful. We would now like to bring this opportunity to Vero Beach. What we need is assistance in meeting with your congressional senators in Washington, D.C. I said, we can do that. We can arrange to have you meet with our senators. We'll be glad to set it up and walk you through, make the introductions, and let it go from there. That's pretty much all this is about, is setting up an introduction, walking a potential business partner in to meet with our congressional delegation. Resolution 2009-033 allows the county administrator or in writing his designee to serve as an agent of the County Economic Development Agency. This allows the names of the company and any particulars of what's discussed to remain confidential. When I asked County Attorney Collins and Deputy County Attorney DeBrawl if county commissioners were considered county employees, they replied in the negative, where even though we have a lot of similarities with county employees, there was enough differences in Mr. Collins' opinion that we are technically not considered county employees. Therefore, in order to allow a commissioner to travel to Washington, D.C., to make the introductions, and to keep the name of the company confidential, I'm bringing forward a modification to that resolution in Section 3, where it would state that the county administrator, in his capacity as officer, may designate in writing one or more county employees and insert the additional wording, or county commissioners, to be assigned the duty to promote the general business interest of Indian River County. So that's what we're here for today, is just a slight change to the resolution. This would allow any commissioner who is authorized in writing from the county administrator to be able to act on the behalf of the county and keep things confidential. And this resolution will replace Resolution 2009-033. So that's a little summary of where we got to where we're going. There was a lot of talk in the paper about some secret deal going on. I just want to say that nothing like that is happening. The only request has been, can you make an introduction to your congressional senators? That is the only thing we've been asked to do, and that's the only thing we're going to do. All this other talk about secret deals has been a bunch of blogging going on without fact or any foundation. So I'll open this up for any discussion. If any of the commissioners have any comments on this at this time.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, I've got several questions, and also, I guess the first question going backwards would be, if the only reason they're going up there is to make an introduction to our senators or congressmen, why do they need to be designated? Anything they have up there or people they talk to is confidential until they put it in writing or wish to disclose it. They can say that it's confidential, and if it's not put in writing and not put in this building, it doesn't come under the public records laws, is my understanding. The other thing is who was the commissioners or commissioner, the meetings you mentioned earlier with the chamber, were they confidential meetings? Or were they at the economic development open meetings?
These were private meetings at the chamber building.
Okay, and that was my understanding. Right. I don't know who I assume you were the commissioner that was there.
That's correct, in my capacity as the liaison to the Economic Development Council.
Right, and that's under the current resolution.
Correct.
And so I would think that, you would still fall into that capacity. The other thing is I've got a serious problem with the way this is written when it says the county administrator, in his capacity as officer, may designate in writing one or more county employees or county commissioners. I have two problems with that. One is, the way I read it, it's like you could have more than one commissioner serving in this capacity working with the same company, and that gets sticky with the Sunshine Law. The other thing is I think it's blatantly unfair to put the county administrator in a position to pick one of his 5 bosses to act in this capacity. And I think that if a commissioner is going to be picked, and if this resolution passes, I think the Board of County Commissioners should select that individual and not the administrator, because I know if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't want to decide which one of the 5 of us was going to go do something to benefit the county. The other thing, as far as the economic development liaison, I would say that, or the chairman. I know I was involved in Piper simply because I happened to be the chairman when that arose. If any other commissioner would have been the chairman, they would have been the one working in that capacity. Those are some of my comments, and I still think if somebody's going to Washington to make introductions, and I don't know that they can do that successfully, but if they can and they do, I don't see why we need to change our whole operating policy with this resolution and expand it when this is going to carry on farther than just this one meeting to Washington if we change our policy. And if legal can tell me why we couldn't send someone up there to work with them, basically lobbying senators, I don't know why they couldn't do that without being designated as a officer in the Economic Development Commission.
I think there would be 2 reasons that you would want to go ahead and invoke the confidentiality of 288. Number 1 is a comfort for whoever that you're meeting, and number 2, to make sure that if any documents, notes, telephone numbers, any sort of written memorabilia would be given to a commissioner, that would be able to be kept confidential.
Well, and to respond to them, all he's got to do is not accept them. What's in his brain is in his brain. I know when we were dealing with the Piper thing, that went on for over a year, and I got called numerous times by the press, and I said I can't comment on it, and just left it at that. And I think that can still happen. I don't see any risk of confidentiality, and even if that is it, and he can be confident, it doesn't stop a commissioner from coming back and still talking about what he saw. I mean, it's up to. In other words, I don't think they have to be designated an officer to keep it confidential. And I think that, I know when we were dealing with Piper, everything either stayed at Piper or stayed at the Chamber of Commerce's office. So it wasn't public record. And I can understand companies not wanting public negotiations for more than one reason. One is it gives them a lot of latitude and leverage to work one city against another city because they don't know what's going on. And that would be my other question is, you know, are we, and I don't know the company, don't know anything about it, and I don't want to throw a pail of water on this, but, you know, the possibility is if they were looking at another area, and now they're looking at our area because it fell through, are we being used as leverage to support the other? I think that kind of happened with the Baltimore Orioles. So that's a concern. And another thing, just my general philosophy, lack of planning on somebody else's part doesn't create a crisis on mine. So, you know, these are questions I have, and if there's good answers to them, you know, I'm flexible. But these are questions I have because this was dropped on us on Friday, and all of us are for economic development, but I'd just like to know that we're moving in the right direction and just not a knee-jerk reaction to something.
Commissioner Wheeler, the reason that this was brought up very late on Friday is because, number one, the resolution had to be amended in order to make the changes necessary so that you could validly invoke the confidentiality section of 288. And secondly, I think it is just a comfort area for the people that are interested in coming here, that whatever they give to a certain commissioner or give to the county can remain confidential. So you don't have the uneasiness in a meeting of, oh, here we're passing out booklets, but that person doesn't get one because they can't, you know, take that into their possession, take it back home with them. It just would facilitate the ease of the meeting and the comfort of whoever might be interested in.
Well, and we had that, where they handed us information, and we left the information for those reasons. And I understand that, and I respect that. The other thing is I don't know when is this trip supposed to take place to meet with our U.S. senators and congressmen in Washington. I assume that it's this being a special call meeting, it would be in the pretty near future, like today, tomorrow, the next day.
That is correct. It's my understanding that it'll be early this week.
What's the? I mean, if there's such urgency for them to get there, I would think they've already had meetings lined up with congressmen or senators, or did they just? I don't know. I mean, these are just logical questions. Did they just call up and say, "Well, this is when we're going. I wish you'd come help us get introductions"? I
think it was a combination of when they were available, and I did call one of the senator's office, Senator Nelson, and spoke with one of his aides, and this time period was working well for Senator Nelson. So I don't set their schedules. I was just responding to a request to facilitate a meeting as soon as practical.
So if Senator Nelson's all we're going to meet with him, do we need to send someone up to meet with Senator Nelson along with the company? I don't know. I just wish I had more. It's hard to operate blindly, and I respect the confidentiality. And Peter, and the meetings you've had, I respect that, and I respect keeping it confidential. But when we start changing our policy publicly, it raises more questions, and I'm not comfortable with making, at this point, we'll see what happens at the meeting, but I need more information. And I'm not talking about the company's name or anything else.
No, I mean, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Davis.
So looking at the modifications and adding the commissioners in there, is there any way that is there any way of accomplishing what Chairman O'Brien's trying to get accomplished and still giving you the protection or allaying some of your concerns? I don't think y'all are that far apart. And
I don't have a problem. On a personal level, I don't have a problem with somebody going to Washington and working with these people. I just don't like changing our policy. And I think that any commissioner could go up there and this could remain confidential. If you don't bring a document back with you and you bring back whatever information you have in your head and work with the chamber, whoever's going up there, that's not public information until it gets to that point, in my opinion. And I'm concerned about changing the way we do business.
Maybe explain a little bit more, Commissioner Wheeler. I think this is a case where if a commissioner did go up there and got any type of information in writing, he could bring it back, he could give it to the county administrator, and the county administrator could meet with each commissioner one-on-one to keep them briefed of what's going on. That would be a document that would be used. We would want to keep it confidential, but that would be one way that all of the commissioners could be brought up to speed on what's going on through the county administrator presenting the information.
So we would use the county administrator as a conduit.
Well, exactly, because we couldn't talk to each other, so it would have to go through the county administrator, and the county administrator could meet with the commissioners on a one-on-one, just like we do before any meeting.
And that's probably exactly what we're prohibited to do, is to use the county administrator as a conduit.
The conduit, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think it would be, the county administrator couldn't say that to you, that, well, I just want to let you know that Commissioner O'Brien...
Absolutely, I understand that.
The Sunshine text. As far as information about Piper, if whenever any of that came forward, I would ask the county administrator, where are we, what's going on, what's the latest, and he could tell me. And that's not conduit, that's just finding out information from the county administrator. The main thing he couldn't say is that the Commissioner Wheeler said X, Y, and Z. Right. That's where you draw the line and violate the Sunshine Law, and that's where the term conduit comes in terms of the Sunshine Law.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. I just wanted to point it out that I admire what Commissioner Wheeler has set forth, and it's always good to go first. You get the good stuff out. But many of those points I found in discussion, and I hope to see more input so we can get those answers. But I do feel a bit uncomfortable about a commissioner being designated and coming back and having that filtered back. I think there is a risk of exactly what I'm pointing out. I feel a whole lot more confident at this time with the resolution the way it is, and if Penny Chandler or Helene were to go up to Washington, I think that we would probably be as best served. They're the ambassadors. They've worked this. They've invested the time. They've negotiated, and they are looking out for the best interests of this county. I think we will probably be best served as staying assembled as a board and discussing this as a board in the Sunshine. I also have great confidence in the staff that would be sent there, the way the resolution is set forth, where some of the hard questions can be answered by bona fide, educated professionals that we have in staff.
Again, my understanding is the county sole purpose here is just to make the introduction and basically to show the support that the county would very much like for this company to come here. There is no deal-making going on. There is no negotiating going on. This is strictly showing that this county is committed to trying to draw new business here and to make the introductions and to make sure things go favorably in kind of a hand-holding introduction. There is no need for staff to be there. This is really, I see it as a political mission. This is what a statesman should do, is to make the introductions, to make things happen. So, Commissioner Slaughter.
I'm feeling a lot like Commissioner Wheeler today, which is probably unfortunate for me, but I don't quite understand why you couldn't do that without this resolution. I mean, to me, this type of thing seems... Well,
let's ask Bill. Bill, if a commissioner goes there on tax dollars and comes back and the press or somebody says, who did you meet with? Is the commissioner under an obligation to report the truth, or can he deny having met anybody?
No, he's under no duty to disclose who he met with or the contents of the meeting at that point.
Okay, so if I can continue?
Sure.
Okay, I mean, given that, I mean, to me this doesn't seem any different from when we go up to Tallahassee. When we go up to Tallahassee, we lobby with our delegation, and then we come home, and I haven't as yet seen one problem with that. But I do see some problems with this resolution. To begin with, I'm not quite sure what the definition of the functions of the Economic Development Agency are. Until I get a good review of those, I'd have some question. But this seems to fuzzy up the problem between policy and implementation. If we're having a county administrator delegate a commissioner to do something which is the policy of the commission, then we're getting extremely fuzzy there in a way I don't really think is good for us. And the only reason so far that we've really heard from the attorney for this resolution are, yes, we have to watch out for documents and notes, but we are talking about comfort and facilitate ease of meeting. And I don't think that either comfort or facilitating the ease of meeting outweigh the general benefits of an open and transparent government, which we as commissioners should be doing. So if you'd like it, I'd be very, very happy to make a motion to authorize a commissioner to go up to Washington to make the introductions and have the meeting. But unless I can get a reason why, and probably more than that, this resolution is necessary to be doing that, I don't see the purpose of it, but I see a number of dangers in it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. The reason for the resolution is to specifically set forth both the agency and also who may invoke the confidentiality clause. That's the reason for the resolution. If you would vote to send someone other than Mr. Baird or the chairman liaison for the Economic Development Committee, you could do that. But what this resolution does is sets forth that it's Mr. Baird's office and the liaison for the Economic Development Committee, which is Commissioner O'Brien, as the two that can currently promise to keep things confidential. If you want to change that, you have to change the resolution. That's the reason that we're here. If you want to have both confidentiality and another commissioner going up other than Commissioner O'Brien, you would have to change the resolution.
I understand that, and I think everybody here has pretty much understood that. That's not the issue. The big issue is whether we want to essentially allow the county administrator to delegate a commissioner to do an implementing function of the government, which is a problem. The second thing is, based on the facts given today, whether that's even necessary. And I think we've got a few commissioners who don't even see why that's necessary. Why can't we simply send a commissioner up to make the introductions and lobby appropriately?
You could. They wouldn't be covered by the resolution, and confidentiality would not be able to be invoked.
Oh, but we don't need confidentiality unless there's some documents or anything. Although that's the whole point of us is, and if there's some anticipation that they may get documents or anything like that, why don't we just simply send up a county administrator or member of his staff? And they can go along with the county commissioner. And that's been done many times when we go up to Tallahassee.
You would be able to do that.
Yeah, that just seems to be the much simpler, easier way of going forward than a change in this resolution, which opens up a number of other problems which none of us have had really the time to think about, nor are we, I guess, predisposed to go.
I guess, if I could, Mr. Chairman, in looking at this, and certainly do appreciate all of Commissioner O'Brien's work on the economic development side.
I agree with that.
I mean, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but there's other commissioners sitting here that could help lift this log in the event that he doesn't have time. And I'll give you a good example. Back whenever I was chairman a year ago, if something like this were to come up, okay, who would I send instead? And could they still have that same luxury of the confidentiality? And from what I'm hearing from Mr. DeBraw is the answer is no. Is that correct or not?
That's correct. When this whole thing was proposed to our office on Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the issue posed to us was if Commissioner O'Brien would choose not to attend and wanted to have someone else attend from the commission, would they be able to do that and still invoke the confidentiality clause? Our response to that issue was no. The only way that they could do that is, number one, change the resolution, and number two, have the board agree to it. So that's the sum total of why we're here this morning. If you choose not to follow through with that, that's absolutely fine. But you will not have the advantage of the confidentiality. That's it.
And Commissioner O'Brien, you're unable to go?
Yes, and I've asked Commissioner Davis to attend.
Okay, and based on what I'm hearing here, I don't see a confidentiality problem. If they wanted to give Mr. Davis papers, he said, sorry, can't take them back with me, send them to the chamber. It's that simple. But if you're going up to make introductions and try and move them through a political system, I'm along with Mr. Solari. I'd second his motion to do that. But I don't want to change and open this up further than what it is based on one incident here, because this will apply to everything in the future.
That's correct.
And I think all of us can receive confidential information when this comes forward, just as we did with other entities. We were kept in the loop with Piper. We were kept in the loop with Baltimore and other instances. But I don't see a need for the confidentiality unless Commissioner Davis was bringing back information and so on and so forth. And if they want that information here, they can overnight it to the chamber or whatever. And the other question I would have is, and I don't know the company or anything about it, but this is all, it's kind of like they're putting the squeeze on the county to react like this because a deal fell through in another city or state, whatever the case may be, and I don't want to be used either to apply leverage to fix somebody else's deal. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's one of the advantages of keeping everything confidential, so they can work one team against the other, and I think we've had that happen to us. But that's pretty irrelevant to this, where we're at now. If we're going up to make introductions and see things, I don't see a need for the confidentiality, and if Mr. Davis comes back and the press says, who were you talking to? He said, I was talking to a company, and I'm not going to divulge the name. There's nothing wrong with that.
May I ask Commissioner Davis a question?
Sure.
Commissioner Davis, do you see that you would have any problem going to Washington to make these introductions without this resolution?
I guess not. I mean, I really haven't thought that. I mean, kind of like y'all were just hearing about this last Friday.
Okay, I mean, given that, I'd be very happy to make the motion, as I said before, to authorize Commissioner Davis or any appropriate commissioner in case some car accident happens to...
Thank you. I appreciate those well wishes.
All right. Take the trip to Washington, D.C. And if given the facts as he understands them after being made known of all the facts, he feels it's appropriate to take a county staff person with him, go ahead to authorize that as part of this resolution.
I'll second that. And I might add that, I'd love to see you go, Bob, but with your political philosophy, I don't think they'd let you in Washington.
We have a motion to authorize Commissioner Davis and any potential staff to travel to Washington, D.C. From Commissioner Solari, and seconded from Commissioner Wheeler. Any discussion from the board?
With the recent discussion that we seem to have removed the confidentiality cloak, I think that we've also removed some of the banter that has taken place in response to the article, and I feel a little better about it, knowing that it will be akin to a trip to Tallahassee to get things moving. I still believe that Penny or Helene, who's been so close to this, might be one to consider on the mission, but you've removed my concerns that this would be a secret deal. We've had that experience, and I think that the rest is history. It hasn't worked too well for us. So with that in mind, if it's a formal introduction to assure that there's a connection with the proper legislative body or representatives, I feel a little more comfortable.
Anyone from the public wish to speak?
Yeah, I will. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this motion? Penny?
I would just like to say, I'm moving a little slow. I've hurt my back this weekend. I would just like to say that when introductions such as this, and they're not unusual to have these kinds of introductions made, the people at the other end that are not necessarily elected officials, but people who are sitting there at the other end of potential jobs, they like to see the full support of a group such as yourselves behind the person who's making those introductions. And it's not unusual to have that request made. I think that, certainly somebody from the private sector in another situation potentially could do this. See, I'm not in the situation to be sitting on a plane this week, and Helene's out of commission as well. So, unfortunately for us, that's just the way it is. But this is not an unusual request. If things are, if these, just like with any other negotiations, when you're talking to folks about creation of jobs or bringing in new business, those folks do like that to be kept confidential. If you can do that, that's great. If you can't do that, not so great. And they will look at other places. So, it is the way, it's sort of the rules of engagement with this kind of thing. And I think that if you can do that and maintain confidentiality, I think that'd be great. Thank
Thank you, Penny. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak to this matter? Yes, sir, please come up. Good morning, Frank. Your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Name Frank Zork, Z-O-R-C, Vero Beach, Florida. First of all, I want to say that I have no question whatsoever about Commissioner O'Brien having good intentions to do what he wants.
Frank, move the microphone a little closer in front of you, please. Thank you.
I say I have no question whatsoever about Commissioner O'Brien and his intentions to do what he wants to do. One official participant would be uncomfortable to me. I could probably accept two for simply the sake of memory advantage for the future. It is said that there is safety in numbers. It would be a serious or dangerous precedent set for future policy. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Zork. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on the motion?
My name is Sam Pennington.
Sam, wait till you get to the microphone, please.
My name is Sam Pennington, and I'm a business person. I own a company up north, and my question is why, if they're trying to create this employment structure here in Vero Beach to make themselves look good instead of spending taxpayers' money again for a plane trip for going up to sit down with Bill Nelson and this future company to be, why can't Bill Nelson, who works for us, have his staff here in Vero Beach bring these people to Vero Beach under the secrecy clause or whatever they want? He is not that important, Mr. Nelson, or anybody else. Taxpayers' money is going out the door again. For what reason? I don't know. But somewhere along the line, people have to stop and listen. We got to stop spending foolish money for a pipe dream to go up there. As a businessman, I go out looking for business every day. I go to that company, I address them, give them a quote, et cetera. They accept it or they don't accept it. But it's out of my pocket, not the taxpayer's pocket. So I think that people have got to start taking a hard look at spending tax dollars for a trip to go up to Washington with our Lordship Nelson, who's too busy to take the time to come and represent Vero Beach as he should. Thank you.
Thank you. Just the company does have an office up near the D.C. area, so it works for them, and Senator Nelson's up there now.
You people should yourself, to try to make yourself look good as a person, get on a plane, your expense, go up there and negotiate with these people and say, listen, I'm representing here, it's coming out of my pocket. I'm trying to get business here to Vero Beach, not to taxpayers' money to go up there on a pipe dream. Do it out of your own pockets.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay. My whole intent here was to show this company that we are open for business, that we want them to come to Vero Beach, that we're excited to work with them, and we're willing to help them in any way we can make this happen and bring the jobs to Indian River County and Vero Beach. So if everyone is happy with this motion, I think that accomplishes what my intent was to show these folks that we are very serious about bringing business here, and we'll do everything we can in our power to help that happen. So, Commissioner Davis?
I certainly understand everything that you brought forward here, and appreciate you bringing it to this point. The confidentiality side of it is something I think just that all the commissioners, as if you're ever in this situation, I suppose, going to just have to be sensitive about, and let's move forward.
Okay, we'll go ahead. Commissioner Fletcher?
I'm just wondering why, Mr. Pennington makes a very valid point. I don't know why we can't have the representative and the company here and have a shade meeting and get it all done.
Can we do that?
We wouldn't be able to have a shade meeting because there is no pending or threatened litigation. That's the only time that you'd be able to have a shade meeting.
Could we not have a shade, Councilor, could we not have a shade meeting for a negotiation? We do it for contracts or discussion?
No, you would not be able to.
So there's no possibility for a shade meeting?
No.
Good.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Pennington brings out a strong point. I mean, 5 years ago, our budget was $500 million. It was 486, 400 million, 302. This year, we're looking at having paled income. The taxpayer dollars aren't going to be there. And we're hearing 10, 12, 14, Joe, is that what you're hearing as well? Is that what you're projecting as a possibility?
Yes, we think the tax roll will be down 12%, 10 to 15.
So, if that's the case, that our anticipated budget is going to be in the high 200 million, 290 million. Would that be fair? And, we've done everything we can to conserve. We've done a lot for economic development this year. I think it's been a banner year. We can't create jobs, but we've fertilized this community. We've fertilized for business opportunity. I think we are attempting to grow the garden. But looking at this if we're looking at 290 million, we've reduced our travel expenses here as a commission. Off the top of my head, it's under $10,000 for the 5 of us. In years past, it was $25,000. It would get up there, and that was during lush times. But we really have to take a hard look at this. We're looking at probably I think a travel budget of $6,000. I know I haven't spent any travel expenses. I don't think any of us really have. We've curtailed a lot of that in the spirit of reducing our own budget as a commission. And now I see us spending thousands of dollars on a trip that just is a formal introduction. I believe it can be accomplished otherwise.
Yes, may I respond?
Commissioner Slaughter, yes.
We just had on last Thursday a goals session, and I understood that it was the policy of all commissioners to actually spend some money on economic development. And to me, this is a little bit of economic development. If we spend $1,000 or $2,000 on this to make the right type of introductions, to bring the right type of company in, I think that's money reasonably spent. I'd be happy to give up my money for the trip to Tallahassee this year and buy a book and study the book instead. Actually, as a matter of fact, I did that for 3 good books for like $56. I'll forgo that because I think sometimes the right introduction at the right time can prove invaluable. And I'm perfectly willing to trust Commissioner O'Brien, knowing none of the specifics. I'm perfectly willing to trust his judgment in this case. I mean, once in a while, despite everything that's involved in this job, you've got to trust the person working with you to do the right thing, and in this case, I will. I've been as tight, if not tighter, than anybody on this dais, but to say that we're not going to spend any money at any time for anything like this, I think is getting to the point where we're almost being foolish. I mean, I agree with Mr. Pennington. We ought to be saving every dollar that we can, and I've certainly got a record to back that up, but this is not one of those times to save $1,000 or even $1,500 to forego the type of introduction that might bring jobs to our community. If we really are open for business, every business understands that you have some money in there for product development. As far as I'm concerned, this is a form of product development for our county. And I think that this commission, particularly in the last year and a half, has been particularly wise in the way it has spent money for this. I think it will continue to be wise in the way it spends money for this, and I certainly don't want us to bring us down to a zero budget for this type of activity.
Thank you, Commissioner Slark. All right. We go ahead, proceed to vote on this issue, and the motion is to authorize Commissioner Davis and any possible staff to travel to Washington, D.C. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously, 5-0, and that pretty much takes care of item A2 with that motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
At 226-1455, or look us up online